All right, guys, we're back. Here's video 2. We're going to start off with an example testing for outliers. Okay, so you can see the results here. All they're going to do is, do our, just get a laser here, do our test for the upper boundary. So they'll take the Q3, which they have from the calculator, Q3 times 1.5 times IQR. The IQR is over here. It's Q3 minus Q1 is 3.5. So if we take 10 plus 1.5 times 3.5, we get 15.25, right? And we can check. There is one value right here, 16. One value that's an outlier. Okay, this is called a modified box plot. It'll plot the it'll plot any individual value as a outlier if it's above the max. And then the next thing it plots is the highest, that isn't the highest next value. Okay, if we look at the low quartile minus 1.5 times IQR, we get a result of 1.25. And so there is, again, one value that's below that. Okay, so with box plots, we can see shape primarily by the whiskers and the spread of the 4 quadrants. Skew, whether or not there's outliers, and modified tail and percentiles. Really, percentiles is the last one. We know certain things about the 25th, the 50th, the 75th, and the 100th percentile. Okay, so here it's just describe the following distributions. Here we have a box plot. Here we have a histogram. All right, so take a couple minutes. See if you can talk about the center, the spread, the clusters, gaps, and outliers. And shape. Okay, if you're back, let me see. I can't remember if I actually filled this in. Yeah, so let's take a look here. So for A, right? Let me add to this. So for A, right, if we look, this looks like a skew, right? For the shape, right? The center is right, this value, this is our median, so maybe 4. The spread, well, it's going to be pretty large, right? More than 15. Okay, so if I make some notes here, center, it's about 4. The spread is about 16, I think. Are there any clusters? I can't really determine there. So clusters, let's say no. Gaps, not significant ones, no. Outliers, there are 3 high. That's a 3 high, right? Those are those. And shape, I don't know why I'm writing the word shape. It's skewed right. Okay, and we can see that both by the presence of outliers, but also this really long whisker here. For the second one, well, if we look at center, we'd actually have to kind of compute this out. So we could take, the middles, this looks like a 0, a 5, a 10, a 20, a 15. And so we could write the center of each part of the histogram. We can multiply the frequency, we can add them up, and we can divide by the frequencies, okay? And yeah, I honestly just don't want to take the time to do that, but we can compute the mean and the median through that process. We could also compute the IQR and talk about the spread. I think for this one, right, the shape is definitely skew right, excuse me. there are some outliers out here. And there are definitely some gaps too, right? There's a gap between, it looks like 20 and 40, 20 and 50, there's no values. So yeah, I'm sorry I didn't fill everything in, but glad to go over it with you more. If you have questions, I think it's pretty clear overall. Hope so. And quite honestly, I'm not feeling too good, so. So here's just a summary of what we have in box plots. Actually, sorry guys, this is all summarized here. And then here's a summary of this. Okay, so we did have it earlier, I forgot about that. Okay, so sorry, let me go back to the blank notes. Yeah, so we're talking about spread today. The big thing for box plot is we have that 5-number summary, and so we can talk about we can talk about range, we can talk about IQR. Just make sure I'm being consistent with this. Well, I'm gonna write it here. Okay, so we can talk about range, we can talk about IQR, and that's really it for spread. For box plot, standard deviation, we could also do variance, right? Outlier determination. Yeah, actually, this is one other one, okay? If we have mean and standard deviation, which we haven't talked too much about, but if you're beyond 3 standard deviations, you're pretty far out there, higher or lower, okay? And so when we talk about normal specifically, we'll get to that more, but that's just a good thing for you guys to see early. 3 standard deviations away from the mean is pretty significant in terms of like being spread out. So we've talked about this, right? And we have an example. Did I answer that? I don't think so. I think actually, guys, this and this and this and this, these are all questions that you can do now before you start the homework. Here's a summary of some important stuff that we shot here. Categorical and quantitative, yeah, we know. Bar graphs, pie charts, categorical, right? But we're not gonna really use it as much in the class. So we'll see dot plots, stem plots, histograms, right? Overall pattern, center spread shape. Is it symmetric? Is it skewed right or left, positively or negatively? What are the outliers? So these are just the things that we want you to talk about when we see data, okay? That is it. This is a very short video. I will go back at some point and put up answers to these questions. But hopefully that was a good summary of the important stuff. I will see you guys soon. Take care.